Thank you for staying with us. And the topic this morning is about the rule of law, governance in Nigeria, doing things rightly, about the National Assembly, the politics there, and the way it's being run. Some will even say there is harassment or allegation of harassment there. I remember the case of the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who represents the good people of Kogi Central, with what went down a few months ago, earlier in the year, where she was suspended, according to the Senate, for flouting House rules, Senate rules, and the way things are done there. She raised some issues at the time where she talked about her voice being silenced, she being harassed, she being not given her pride of place as a senator, just because the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, allegedly, sexually made advances at her, and because she didn't give in, she was removed from the committee that she was heading, and her seat was replaced. The consequences, if House rules, Senate rules are flouted, it should not be for 6 months. There have been court rulings that have said it should not exceed 2 weeks, and there are precedents of Aline Dume, there are precedents of former Deputy Senate President Ovie Omagege, who had their suspensions reduced. And the court has spoken on this matter, but then that was never the case. She went to court, and the court made different pronouncements on that. In fact, with what we have here, there was a court that upheld the position of the Senate, and there was another court that said, okay, you can't do this. You will be denied disenfranchising the people she's representing. In their hundreds of thousands, the rule, that priority, that privilege to be represented, that means for 6 months now, their voices have not been heard, their cause have not been presented, their interest has not been, heard on the floor of the House, just because their representative, the Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, is under suspension. Now, when you see the pictures on your screen, these used to be jolly good fellows in the past, in which they have been seen together. In fact, Senator Akpabio, the suspended Senator Uduaghan said he used to be family friends. Her husband and the Senate President are friends before whatever happened. And now she has made, when she got the latest ruling where the Senate was told, that they can't do that, she tried to go to the House. She was locked out. And now the 6 months has elapsed, but still the Senate, and she has made advances. In fact, our lawyers have said they will be going to the House to resume in as much as 6 months has elapsed. But with what we are hearing, firstly, it was the lawyer who told journalists that the Kogi lawmaker will be resuming with her colleagues on September 23 because the Senate is on recess. So when the recess is over, she will be resuming as much the suspension of 6 months is over. She said actually she's ready to resume her team. She's in London, everything is fine, and the 6 months have expired. The only thing left is a resumption. We have been told that even the leadership of the Senate is ready to welcome her. So that's the situation at the moment. There is no obstacle at all. But then the Senate has made a position on the matter, and they pointed out that suspension began on March 6, 2025, and it remains in force on the Court of Appeal rules on the case she filed challenging the decision. They said the matter remains sub judice, and until the judicial process is concluded, no administrative action can be taken to facilitate your resumption. And that is the position of the Nigerian Senate. That was said by the acting clerk to the National Assembly, Dr. Yahaya Danzaria. And many questions are being asked today to say, does the Senate have the power to cherry pick? Can they do all of these things? Can a matter of this nature be said to be sub judice? And by the way, what do I know? That's why we have analysts in the House today, all of them lawyers. So we have the House full today, and a lot of clarification, education, and right information for the benefit of the society. In-house with us today in the studio, we have a public affairs analyst and a lawyer, Moses Obaditan. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, virtually, we have two lawyers, constitutional lawyer, Shimara activist, Chetam Nwala. He joins us. Good morning, Barrister Chetam.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
And of course, at the other end as well, we have a constitutional lawyer, public affairs analyst, Barrister Dapo Ogunwusi. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, very well. Let me start with you, and we are going to be very fast this morning because we have you here, and of course we must not just scratch the surface, speak truth to power from the place of our laws, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Barrister Dapo Ogunwusi, this is where we are. You had my introduction, and the Senate are saying, Senator Natasha Akpoti, you can't come in. There is a case at the Court of Appeal, and so we can't take any matter. We can't entertain you. Stay till the case is concluded. Is that right?
Well, I heard of that, and I wondered when the Senate suddenly became so law-abiding. Because that would be against the run of play. They have always maintained their independence as an arm of government. And on the basis of the powers conferred on them, they are, empowered to make their own rules, and, they always argue along that line. But in this case, they find it very convenient to say, oh, there is a case in court. They deserve an applause. Look, let's look at the issue in the face from the perspective of the law. Her resumption is not part of any litigation. What is in court has to do with a 6-month suspension. That has been affected by the effluxion of time. They have never stopped her from being a senator. They have never done anything to her beyond 6 months. So at the expiration of that 6 months, the issue becomes vacated. What is at display in court is whether the Senate has the power to suspend her in the first place. Now the suspension is gone, There's nothing on the table that affects her resumption as per the cases in court, except they are telling us that they are assuming fresh powers and imposing fresh sanctions beyond those 6 months. So you can see that they are just being clever by half. And you can also understand that Nigeria is being repetitively insulted by these organizations. The initial allegation was never subjected to any scrutiny or investigation. And the entire country remains spellbound that did not happen. And yet they continue to carry on using the sheer force of using just brute force to maintain our exclusion, even when there is no legal backing for such an action. But that is a matter that is sub judice, the idea of whether she can be suspended or not. But what is not sub judice is whether she can resume after the 6 months. It's sheer mathematics, simple mathematics. You cannot tell the world that she cannot resume after your 6 months. The 6 months here is the subject of litigation. But the 6 months have gone, and it is up to the courts to award damages if they think that they did not have if the court thinks that these people do not have the powers to do what they actually did. That's a different issue. But whether she has the power to resume at all, you will need to go back to her constituency and get her recalled to be able to effect that. But what do we know? Because these people are simply lawless.
All right. Barrister Ogunwusi. Let's quickly go over to you, Barrister Nwala. Barrister Nwala, are you still with us?
Very well.
Okay, Barrister Nwala, in your own opinion, I just want to know, since we're talking about legal matters now, is there any legal limit to how long a lawmaker can be suspended without violating the rights of their constituents to representation at the National Assembly?
First of all, I must make it clear that when you look at the Nigerian state today, the Nigerian state is currently in the hands of people who do not care about the law, who are not also interested in what the law says. The Constitution does not mean anything to them. Nothing means anything to them. What means something to them is that particular interest they have to pursue per time. That's what they're interested in. So whether the law is being obeyed or not, it's not their problem at this point. And they're only majorly focused on pursuing that personal selfish interest they have in the circumstance. And that is why we see what is happening in the National Assembly. As we shouldn't be discussing this particular issue and asking whether there are existing laws as to when a person should resume and as to whether the person could be suspended and all that. We shouldn't be having this conversation. It breaks my heart that these men, and Ababa himself is also a lawyer, funny enough. But see, this country is it's just that we also have a weak citizenry that have allowed these men to continue to operate the way they have operated. If we are to be in a reasonable society, the citizens would actually rise and demand for what is right in the circumstance. Because, we continue to have this mindset of, oh, it is Natasha, she should deal with her issues. And that is why these people can get away with whatever they do. And it's not in our best interest as a people. So nobody cares about whether there exists a law or not, even when the law is quite glaring. And it's also important. You have suspended a senator, which ordinarily the court has also held to say that, see, suspending a senator is depriving our constituents. It's depriving our constituent of representation at the National Assembly. And that such suspension should not be for too long. So if the court have also stated that, what other law are we looking for? We now move to the point where the said time for suspension has elapsed. The person appealed the judgment. You are now saying that the person cannot resume until the matter in court has been resolved. Come on.
All right, Barrister Nwala, my point exactly is, Barrister Nwala, so the point is it that we do not have laws in Nigeria stipulating how long a lawmaker can be suspended? Because her constituents are being affected. They are not being represented at the National Assembly. So is it that we do not have any laws stipulating how long a constituency can stay without representation?
I just referred you to a judgment, and a judgment is a law on its own. I just referred you to the judgment that was partly appealed by Senator Natasha, where the court had stated clearly that you cannot, that suspending a member of the National Assembly simply deprives the people the person represents of representation, and that where such suspension is to hold, it is not supposed to be for too long.
So Barrister Nwala, you are saying technically,
referring to the 6 months.
Barrister Nwala,
to the 6 months, and the 6 months is too long a time.
Barrister Nwala, so are you saying technically that the Senate is breaking the law? This is a breach of law. Is that the technical interpretation of what you're saying? That the Senate is simply breaching the law here?
It is not technical interpretation. It is what it is. It is not technical interpretation. It is what it is. The Senate does not have regard for the laws it has made. The Senate does not also have regard for our Constitution. The Senate does not have regard for itself. The Senate only has regard for Akpabio and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's what the Senate has regard for. Beyond these people, they don't have regard for anybody. They don't have regard for Nigerians. They don't also care how we think and what is in our best interest. So they're only pursuing the interests of Senator Akpabio and the interests of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and that's all. So they're not interested in whatever the law says. We have seen it in the actions. It is not the first time. It's not also going to be the last time, because Nigerians have continued to remain quiet. So these men, they act like gods to themselves and to the people they actually seek to govern, which is a pathetic and a sad situation.
So much for interest there. We come to you. Barrister Moses Obaditan. The two lawyers have said unequivocally it is wrong, it's against the law. It's just, more like serving interest of the high and mighty in the nation. And this is against the law. Let me just ask you in clear terms now. as a public affairs analyst, what do you think is at play here? Now, you know, it was first about, oh, was she heard or not? Was Senator Natasha Akpoti given, you know, a free platform to express her feelings, or was she being hounded? Some have said, was Natasha herself, that's the senator, did she make things worse for herself, the way she went about her things, speaking to the media, went out of the country, you know, to disparage the Senate and the entire leadership and all of those things. And here we are, oh, you cannot enfranchise our people for 6 months. Long and short, she has been suspended for 6 months. It has happened. Nothing has happened. And now it's time for her to go back. The Senate still communicated to her, you can't come back. There is a case in court. What do you think is at play here? Pastor Moses Obaditan.
Thank you very much. There's what we call political culture. And if you don't have it, it will evidently seen. In Nigeria, we do not have what we call political culture. What is political culture? That is what we call democratic precedents or characteristics. One of the features, which is also in our constitution, is that there should be freedom of expression. And then Section 43 said there is presumption of innocence. And an individual is not guilty because he has spoken. Not only that, there's what we call a parliamentarian immunity. Whatever I say in the parliament, I'm immune. I cannot even be, you know, tried because I've expressed it. So when you bring all these one together, you realize that Akpabio and the Senate cannot give what they do not have. In the sense that if you look at their background, is Akpabio supposed to be there? He contested as a presidential candidate. He lost. Somebody has already emerged. And yet he went back, was given to him. The court that's supposed to be, you know, the arbiter, the one that's supposed to decide that, look, you can't contest twice within a short period. If somebody has, and he's not the only one, the former Senate president did the same thing. So that I'm talking about political, call her. Even that one is between her. Call her. Even that one is between her and the constituency. Now, if you look at other people, Ndume, Agege, and their like, if this is a man, because what is a senator? A senator that support in Latin form means elders. If you are elders and somebody say, you want to chop my yam, and I'm not, and somebody say, you want to chop my yam, and I'm not ready to give it to you, because look at it. Yes, you want to say something?
Yeah,
because look at it. Yes, you want to say something?
Yeah, but Obaditan, that's why I asked you that question. That what do you think is at play? Yeah.
What is at play is that we are in a jungle. We do not operate by our law. I know you are going to say the Senate has their rules, but let me read what the Constitution says. Section 1 and Section 3 of Nigerian Constitution. So the rules of the Senate is not superior to 1999 Constitution. So if they have their rule is nobody cannot stand. This Constitution is supreme, and its provision shall have binding force on all authorities and persons throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Section 3. If any other law is inconsistent with the provision of this Constitution shall prevail, and that other law shall, to the extent of it, be void. So their rules guiding them in the Senate is void ab initio. So if they are supposed to be custodian of the Constitution, because there are 3 arms, and the 3 arms, none of them is even superior to the other person, because they're supposed to serve as checks and balances. So if your member, which you are supposed to protect, have you heard of the Walensky issue during the big
as well? The suspended woman now, I'm not sure if that language is even right again now. The Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, is a lawyer. So she knows what she's saying, or she should know. The Senate President, Akpabio, is a lawyer. The Senate leader, Okwemi Bamidele, is a lawyer. So where's the problem here? Barrister Dapo Ogunwusi. The same question, knowing fully well those people, and many of them are lawyers like yourself. So what's the problem?
The problem is that our laws don't count that much in the present dispensation.
Even from lawyers?
Yeah, what counts is some kind of mechanism whereby force, where the control of the agents of coercion are more important than the letters of the law. Fundamentally, there's an explanation for that. You see, justice protects law and order. Law is a function of the rules that are set down and obeying and keeping to them. Order is just an attempt to maintain a semblance of peace and sanity. But it has been proved consistently over time that you cannot have order where there is no justice. Akpabio knows that. He learned that in the law school. Natasha knows that. She learned that in the law school. Opeyemi knows that. He was also at the law school. I don't know how much of practice he had in Nigeria. When you had all of these together, it is like a conspiracy of the people who should know and who are refusing to know. Look, like I said earlier, the issue of a resumption at the end of 6 months.
Somebody made a pass. The case has not been settled. She ran to court so that she will not be suspended. She has already suspended. 6 months has elapsed, and yes, she said the case is in court. Which case? Is it the case of my resumption or the case of you trying to touch me in form of corruption or in form of what we call adultery, an adulterous relationship? So the case of resumption, you are saying we suspend it for 6 months. That settles that. The 6 months is over. Even Natasha should go to court and say, well, what I came for, time has elapsed. That's why the case of Oshun, they say is an academic exercise. Because time has elapsed. So time is a factor in every case. That's why I said judiciary too have to be blamed. In a situation like this, somebody is suspended for something, and she ran to you. That's what we call accelerated hearing. Some judges will tell you, I'm not going to give you injunction. I will restrain the National Assembly. And that's why the National Assembly, we also have an arm. Nobody can stop us. Then they can make it. So that within 1 month, they would have had that lady or the senator. Now the 6 months is apart. So what should going to? So what exactly is next? The whole thing is rubbish. So if we come back, the first question should be asking, do we have the rule of law? Then to how about ethics?
Because the result of corruption in the system. What happens to the result of corruption in the system? What happens to the ordinary citizen, average Nigerian?
That is why we are saying that our representatives are already casualty. There's a poem by one of the old literature guru. He called it the vulture. No, meaning that a lot of things has gone wrong. Was looking at the political situation in Nigeria. It was a poem by I think it's Okpara or something. So what I'm trying to say was that Ndume has been a victim, Obi Agege has been a victim, and many more has been at the state level. Remember, just recently, the Speaker of Benue State was, I think I was right, or Plateau.
Yeah. He resigned. Benue resigned.
But it wasn't.
Well, the official story was that he resigned.
He resigned, but it could be under pressure. There is a local... You don't have the ingredients. How will you make it eatable and suitable? So we love to have democracy, but you don't have the ingredients. How will you make it eatable and suitable? So we love to have democracy, but that's carryover of the traditional system into the modernity is the one affecting us.
Of these, the military days, is that what you are talking about?
Combined.
Or the monarchical?
The monarchical one. The military have, most of them have military background.
Yeah.
And they carry it over there. But I'm even saying the monarchical, the king is the second to the gods.
And that's how these
that's how the politicians see themselves. Even try to say the local government chairman.
All right.
The way they carry themselves. I see, was not the man we knew that normally come to our station. But now because
they
he
become
power,
demigods.
And absolute power corrupt. Absolutely. And that's what we have seen.
We'll go on this quick break, Barrister. We're trying to establish connection with our other guest, and the conversation will continue. Barrister Obaditan said, maybe this is not democracy. It's a pseudo or quasi-democracy. The gentleman over there said, this is not what it's supposed to be. That is quick break. And when we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with us.